We've spent 7 months over the course of the last couple years traveling throughout Great Britain, spending most of that time in England. Today, we're counting down some of our favorite places throughout England, the best coastal towns, picturesque villages, and the coolest cities. Whether you're planning your first trip to the UK, or you live nearby and are looking for a day out or a weekend break, these are the places that we think you must visit. Make sure you subscribe and check out our other videos for guides to each place, foods you have to try, and so much more. In 10th place is Lincoln. This charming city in the East Midlands completely won us over with its incredible cathedral, fascinating history, and delightful charm. If you've never been to Lincoln, it's a very steep city. In fact, the main thoroughfare is called Steep Hill, appropriately named. This postcard-perfect cobblestone street leads you up to the cathedral and castle grounds. The Lincoln Cathedral is a medieval masterpiece that was once considered the tallest building in the world for over 200 years. It's a very beautiful cathedral, inside and out. To go inside, it costs £12 for adults. And we loved that it was one of the dog-friendly cathedrals in England that we went to. If you do go inside, don't miss trying to spot the iconic Lincoln Imp. The historic Lincoln Castle dates back 900 years. You can walk along the ancient walls and get amazing views of the city and surrounding areas. It also houses one of the 4 remaining copies of the Magna Carta, a kind of eerie Victorian prison, and you can learn about Lincoln's Roman history. One of the spots we loved on Steep Hill was Brown's Pie Shop. They have delicious pies and are definitely worth a stop. We also enjoyed taking a narrowboat tour along the canals. It was a unique way to see Lincoln's countryside. The cathedral and castle alone make Lincoln worth a visit, but we found the city to be truly an underrated gem full of pleasant surprises.
Number 9 is Newcastle upon Tyne. If you live in the UK, there's a good chance Newcastle upon Tyne is not on your travel bucket list, but maybe it should be. We have friends in Newcastle, so we've been multiple times and probably have spent more time in this city than any other in the UK. What I love about this city is that it has a fascinating history blended with a modern, lively spirit. Wandering around, we are struck by Newcastle's unique mix of sleek new construction right alongside historic buildings, many of which are very beautiful. You can't miss the iconic Tyne Bridge over the river. When it was built in 1928, it was the world's largest spanning bridge. One of the things that we love the most about Newcastle is that it has some of the best food in all of England. It is definitely a foodie city. Granger Market dates back to 1835, and it's a must-visit market. It has wonderful food options like artisan cheeses. We tried a unique sticky toffee cheddar and had one of the best chicken sandwiches we've ever had at Fed's.
Another highlight is the quirky WC Gin Closet, possibly the world's smallest gin bar set in a former women's toilet. And boy, I still crave that Parma Violet gin drink I had there.
Newcastle is also known for its Georgian architecture, and walking along Grey Street feels reminiscent of Bath, which we'll discuss more a little later. The riverfront quayside area offers picturesque views of the 7 bridges. And the Quayside Sunday Market is another fantastic way to experience the amazing food offerings of Newcastle. Newcastle is only a 90-minute train ride from Edinburgh, and there are a lot of other incredible places around like Durham and Northumberland nearby. It's definitely worth a visit.
Coming in at number 8 is Bath. Undeniably one of the most beautiful cities in England. It's no wonder that it's a popular tourist destination. The Georgian city really captivated us. It was one of the first experiences we had with Roman history in England, and throughout all of our travels, it's still one of the most memorable cities. You can't visit Bath without experiencing the Roman baths. The remarkably intact ancient thermal spas that date back to around 60 AD. Walking through the baths really makes you feel like you're experiencing ancient times firsthand. And the museum is full of so much wonderful information and so many impressive artifacts. It is definitely worth a visit. The iconic Bath Abbey, looming overhead, is an architectural marvel in its own right. But the real showstopper is the iconic Pulteney Bridge, adorned with quaint shops and restaurants stretching across both sides. One of the best examples of Georgian architecture is the Royal Crescent. We missed it on our trip, but our friends JJ Extra recently visited, and wow, the Royal Crescent is stunning, isn't it? This row of 30 terraced houses, laid out in a sweeping crescent shape, was constructed in the 1700s, and I can see why it's considered one of the greatest examples of Georgian architecture anywhere.
Let's talk about Bath buns. If you visit Bath, you must try one. We ate at the iconic Sally Lunn's historic eating house, sampling both a savory and sweet version of what's considered the original Bath bun, which is kind of like a giant bun made out of brioche.
Whether you're in the mood for something savory or sweet, There are plenty of toppings to choose from for your bath bun.
We also love the cozy, intimate vibe of the Raven Pub. I savored one of the best steak and Stilton pies I've ever had.
And I discovered a new favorite, pickled onion and cheese in my ploughman's lunch. Bath is a stunning city and one of the best places you can visit, especially if you're into Roman history or Georgian architecture.
Number 7 is Manchester. Our trip to Manchester started on a really fun note. We started by visiting the Wash House, a hip speakeasy-style cocktail lounge where you enter through a fake laundromat or laundrette. The bar itself is low-key and cool, and the cocktails are incredibly creative. And that's what makes Manchester so special. It's an eclectic city with a mix of industrial grit, modern trendiness, and historic charm. For a taste of Manchester's storied history, don't miss the breathtaking Manchester Cathedral. Founded in 1421, its soaring Gothic architecture and wide cavernous nave are simply jaw-dropping. We loved admiring the ornate details while learning about its rich heritage.
The Northern Quarter is possibly Manchester's coolest area. Full of street art, indie boutiques, record stores, lively bars. It's a very cool area to just wander around and explore. And if you do visit Manchester, you absolutely must visit Affleck's. It's a former department store that's been converted into a marketplace with independent shops. It was the absolute highlight of our time in Manchester. From vintage clothes to rare vinyl, it is a treasure trove of unique finds.
For delicious Indian food, hunt down the no-frills but phenomenal This and That Cafe. Their daily rotating curries are possibly the best we've had yet. I still dream about that flavorful Bombay potato curry. Mackie Mayer Food Hall was another highlight for food. Many options to choose from, but we can recommend the pizza. We barely scratched the surface of Manchester in our time there, but we can't wait to go back and experience more of this vibrant city.
A place that we visited more recently is the Jurassic Coast, which comes in at number 6. The Jurassic Coast is a must-visit UNESCO World Heritage Site, stretching over 90 miles along the southern coast of England. We spent several days exploring the incredible region and loved every single minute of it. In the town of Swanage, we hiked out to see the Old Harry Rocks, 3 stunning chalk formations jutting out of the sea. The hike took us near fields of grazing cows and sheep, making it a quintessentially English countryside experience. Another highlight was finding the preserved dinosaur footprints at Keats Quarry. It was a little difficult to find, but it was surreal to see these 140-million-year-old tracks just casually out in the middle of a cow pasture. We stayed in the charming seaside town of Lyme Regis, known for its fossils dating back 200 million years, to when the whole area was underwater. We didn't have a lot of luck finding many fossils, but fossil hunting is so much fun, it's become my new favorite pastime. The whole area is stunning and beautiful, and it's just lovely to walk along the seaside.
If you find yourself in Lyme Regis, don't miss the food at the pilot boat. Everything we had was fantastic.
Finally, no trip to the Jurassic Coast is complete without visiting the very famous Dirtle Door, a stunning natural limestone arch. The hike down provided incredible views. It felt like something out of a fantasy film to finally see the Dirtle Door. But maybe try to avoid visiting during school holidays, or in our case, Easter weekend. We still enjoyed ourselves, but the experience might have been a little more enjoyable if we weren't sharing it with 3,000 other people. Between the stunning scenery, the fossil hunting, and the classic English seaside towns, the Jurassic Coast is an absolute dream.
Next up at number 5, Cornwall. Tucked away in the far southwestern corner of England is one of our absolute favorite places, Cornwall. It's a classic destination with a very distinct culture and cuisine. We've been all over England, but Cornwall has some of England's most dramatic coastlines and picture-perfect fishing villages. We explored several villages like Marazion with its iconic St. Michael's Mount, but one of the most stunning spots we found was Lizard Point. Here we lucked into perfect sunny weather for hiking the coastal footpath. The trail took us along dramatic cliffs and sweeping views. It was our first time visiting the English seaside, and to this day, it's one of our favorite spots. St. Ives is a quintessential Cornish town to visit. We arrived in the evening and watched a beautiful sunset. We dined on some fresh off the boat fish and chips at a local seafood restaurant and tried Cornish smokies, a cheesy smoked haddock dip that was truly divine. But the true star of Cornwall is the Cornish pasty. We got one from Anne's Pasties in Helston. It was incredible. Meant to be a hearty portable meal for the area's historic tin miners, this ginormous pasty was absolutely bursting with flavor. While you can find Cornish pasties across the UK, not a single other one we've tried even comes close to the enormous flaky buttery pasty we tried at Anne's Pasties.
It's so good. Cornwall is also a prime spot for having a proper cream tea. But if you visit Cornwall, be sure to try your clotted cream and jam the Cornish way by putting the jam on the scone first before topping it with the clotted cream. While you might prefer the Devonshire way with cream first, in Cornwall it's an unwritten rule that you have to do it their way.
What makes Cornwall so special is that it feels totally removed from the rest of England in the best way possible. It's an absolute must visit to explore the wonderful scenery, food, and culture that is Cornwall.
The Cotswolds is a must-visit place in England, and that's why it's coming in at number 4. The Cotswolds is somewhere that we had so many people tell us we needed to visit, and when we finally did, it all made sense. The Cotswolds is a region in southwest England that will make you feel like you're living in an English fairy tale, full of rolling hills, colorstone cottages, and the loveliest English villages. We spent 3 days in the Cotswolds, and it did not feel like enough time. Our first stop was the charming village of Painswick, known as the Queen of the Cotswolds. Wandering through the churchyard with its 99 yew trees felt like stepping into a storybook scene. The village of Bibury is not to be missed. Arlington Row, which is widely considered England's most iconic street, is lined with cottages that date back to the 1300s. The village itself is tiny, so get there early to make sure you can get parking and beat the crowds. In Bourton-on-the-Water, also known as the Venice of the Cotswolds, we admired the stone bridges arching over the river. The model village is a highlight, which has intricately detailed models of all of the shops and everything in the village, down to even having its own tiny model version of the model village within the model village. From Bourton-on-the-Water, we walked a path to nearby Lower Slaughter. Each town has its own unique charm, and it's lovely to just explore and take in as many as you can. Our friends and fellow YouTubers, JJ Extra, showed us around Stow-on-the-Wold, taking us to what is often referred to as the Tolkien Door, and showing us side alleys that once served to herd sheep into the market square. We even got to see some original medieval stocks.
The best food we ate in the Cotswolds were the 2-in-1 pies at the 17th century pub called the Weybridge Inn. Like the name suggests, half of the dish is one of their decadent pie fillings, like steak and mushroom or chicken, ham, and leek. And the other side is filled to the brim with the most deliciously creamy cauliflower cheese. It was the ultimate savory pie experience.
No trip to the Cotswolds is complete without staying in an iconic cottage with that classic Cotswolds green paint. Ours was located in the village of Loughborough and was the perfect relaxing place to unwind, aside from us melting cheese in the oven and almost burning our cottage down. The Cotswolds is a very popular destination, and for good reason. If you're looking for a place to visit in the picturesque English countryside, look no further than the Cotswolds. It is truly a real-life storybook escape. Before we get into the top 3, if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Each place that's made this list has a more in-depth video, and we have even more videos from places that didn't make the list. So make sure to check out our other videos on the channel.
Number 3 is Whitby. Steeped in literary history and seaside charm, the coastal town of Whitby is one of the best in England. It's easy to see why this gem on the Yorkshire coast inspired Bram Stoker's novel Dracula.
We love this town so much that we've now made multiple videos about it. On our first trip, we didn't know much about Whitby before going and went on the recommendation of our friends. We were completely blown away by the stunning architecture. There are so many places around town with stunning views.
The dramatic ruins of Whitby Abbey are one of the best sights in town. Though entry requires a fee, you can still wander the scenic churchyard and soak in the sweeping views from the nearby path. Between wandering the labyrinth of cobbled streets lined with arcades and amusements, taking a boat tour, or getting fish and chips from one of the many famous chippies in Whitby, you can't go wrong.
And speaking of fish and chips, wow, they are great in Whitby. The Magpie Cafe is probably the most famous place to get them, and probably just as famous for the queue outside as they are for the fish and chips themselves. But the food is fantastic. They have great curry sauce, and I'm making myself hungry just talking about the fish and chips in Whitby.
You also must try a lemon top, which is a soft serve combination of vanilla and lemon. It's a delight and a Whitby must. And if you're visiting Whitby, consider also exploring the nearby fishing village of Robin Hood's Bay. It's a very steep walk down to the sea, but it's a great village to wander the winding streets, check out the shops, and is a 10 out of 10 rated beach from our dog's perspective. We have loved each spot on the Yorkshire coast we visited, and Whitby remains one of our absolute favorite coastal towns in England.
The Lake District is one of the top places that you have to visit in England, and that is why it is number 2. The Lake District is home to the country's tallest peaks, deepest lakes, and most breathtaking scenery. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and was at the top of our UK bucket list for a while before we finally visited last summer, and it did not disappoint. One of the highlights for me was Buttermere Lake, which I should clarify, most of the lakes in the Lake District are technically meres, which by definition is a shallow lake, pond, or wetland, hence the name Buttermere. But whatever you refer to the body of water, it's absolutely astonishing. It felt so peaceful and serene, almost like we had it all to ourselves. The views in the Lake District are amazing, but what we didn't expect was how much we would fall in love with the towns. The charming town of Keswick is full of shops and cafes and a great place to wander.
A real highlight was visiting this amazing bar called the Crafty Ba, which was built out of mostly recycled materials. It had such a unique, cozy atmosphere and an incredible selection of over 100 beers. I tried a peanut butter stout and man, it was delightful.
We couldn't visit the Lake District without stopping in the town of Windermere, which holds a special place in our hearts because we used to live in a town called Windermere, Florida, named after this very spot. The English Windermere is considered the heart of the Lake District, and after exploring its streets, we can confidently say it is the cooler of the two namesakes. Ambleside was another great stop, as it felt a lot more low-key and quieter than Windermere. And the highlight there is the 17th century bridge house. You also can't visit the Lake District without sampling the world-famous gingerbread from Sarah Nelson's Gingerbread Shop, which has been crafting this unique treat from a secret recipe since 1854. Even if you have to wait in line, it's worth the wait, and you'll be greeted by the aroma of warming spices while you're outside. The shop is located right next to St. Oswald's Church, where renowned poet William Wordsworth is buried. He even described Grasmere as the loveliest spot that man hath ever found. And after tasting that heavenly gingerbread, I'm inclined to agree. There's also a very special afternoon tea experience at the Bassenthwaite Lake Station. It's a restored train station where you can have tea on a replica Orient Express train car that was used in the movie Murder on the Orient Express. At only £25 per person, it was an amazing value for such a special experience. There is just so much to see and do in the Lake District. It's a place you could easily return to again and again. The natural beauty combined with the delightful towns and experiences make the Lake District an absolute must visit.
The number one place to visit on our list has to be York. On our first trip, it was probably the single place that made us fall in love with England. There's no place quite like York. It's a city that has a perfect blend of history and charm and feels so quintessentially English. York Minster is one of the world's most stunning Gothic cathedrals. We were awestruck by the intricate details and the sheer scale of it. We especially noticed the scale when we were climbing the 275 steps to the top of the central tower. It was a real workout, but the breathtaking panoramic views over the city made it worth it. The Shambles, often called Europe's best preserved medieval street, is one of the coolest looking streets in England. The narrow winding lane with overhanging timber-framed buildings is like nothing we'd ever seen anywhere else. We loved browsing the quirky independent shops like the Ghost Merchants of York, known for its handmade ghost trinkets.
The pub culture in York is fantastic too. From trying classic pub dishes at Ye Olde Star Inn, which was established in 1644, to meeting locals at the Snickelway Inn, a great pub with quirky decor and 80s punk rock vibes. We loved immersing ourselves in the pub culture in York. Betty's Tea Room is a popular place to get afternoon tea, and it's also a really wonderful experience. At York Roast Company, you can grab the street food version of a Sunday roast. All of the roast and veg fixings wrapped up inside a Yorkshire pudding. Yum, can't go wrong there. But there are many great food options in York for dining.
But why I know York is one of the best places to visit is because every time we go, we just want to put the camera down and immerse ourselves in the vibes and atmosphere. It's the kind of city I just want to wander and get lost in. It's a great city to take in a museum, walk the walls, and take in all of the Roman and Viking history, and just have a good time in a cool city.
It's hard to make a list of only 10 places that you must visit in England, as there are many more we visited that we've loved, and even more that we haven't even experienced yet. Is there a must-visit place that we missed? Make sure to let us know in the comments, and also let us know about any hidden gems or underrated places we should visit on a future trip. Thank you so much to our patrons for the support, and thank you for watching. Click the link in the top left corner to see the whole playlist of all of the videos of the top 10 places we've covered, or click the link on the bottom left to be taken to the video that YouTube thinks you'll like. We'll see you over there.